We continue now at the top of Daf 90a Daf and Meseches Bava Basra. This is Bava Basra Daf 90a. The Gemara is continuing to bring a brisa which discusses the standard measures, and this is for dry. The final measure is v'uchla and uchla v'kamihi uchla. How much is an uchla? Echad mechamisha b'revi. It's 1/5 of a quarter of a kav. And the brisa continues with amidas halach when it comes to measuring liquids. So what are the standard measures? Hu'osahin v'chatzihin u'shlishasahin or reviasahin. The standard measures are a hin and a half a hin, a third a hin, a quarter of a hin. V'log v'chatzi log or revias u'shminis v'echad mishmona b'shminis, and also a log and a half a log, a quarter of a log, an eighth of a log, 1/8 of an eighth of a log, and the 1/8 of an eighth of a log v'zeu kortov. That is called a kortov. And the Gemara says v'li'avin nami kabayim. Why not have a standard measure in terms of dry measures? Why not have a measure of 2 kav? And to that the Gemara says asi lechlufe betirkav. That would be confused with a tirkav. But the Gemara says to that al mato inshi tilsa. You see that people make a mistake of within a third. So if that's true, hachi kav nami lo li'avid. If that's true, a kav also should be a problem to make. The asi lechlufe bechatzi tirkav. Isn't that going to get confused with a half a tirkav? And so the Gemara instead says ela kabayim hainu taim v'doloavid. The reason why we don't have a standard measure of 2 kav, the asi lechlufe bechatzi tirkav, because that's going to be confused with a half a tirkav. The Gemara says to that al matoi inish river. You see that people make a mistake of a quarter, but if that's true, hachi chatzi tuman va'ochla lo la'avid. You shouldn't have a measure of a half a tuman and an ochla. That also will get confused. And to that the Gemara says Amar Papa says midos ketanos biki buhu inshi. When it comes to small measures, people are experts at that. And the Gemara continues, Shlishas ahin, Revias ahin lo li'avid. They shouldn't have a third of a hin as a measure. They shouldn't have a quarter of a hin as a measure. And to that the Gemara says, Kevan dehava b'mikdash, since those existed in the Beis HaMikdash, lo gazru b'hu rabbanon. The rabbanon didn't make a gezerah, they didn't make a decree against it. The Gemara says, b'mikdash and ami ligzer. Well, why not make a gezerah in the Beis HaMikdash as well? And to that the Gemara says, Kohanim zrizin hein. The Kohanim are zrizim. The Kohanim are very careful, and therefore there's no need to make such a gezerah in the Beis HaMikdash. And the Rashbam explains, "V'li'avid nami kabayim." Why not have a measure of 2 kav? Delahave shlishas hasa. That would be 1/3 of a saw. Ki hechi detikon shlishas hahin. Just like we find a third of a hin. And the Gemara answered to that. Umeshani, the Gemara answered, "Asi lechlufe betirkav." That would get confused with a tirkav to who shlosha kavin, because a tirkav is 3 kav. So now you have 2 kav and 3 kav. V'gadol shlish mi kabayim. 3 kav is just 1/3 bigger than the 2 kav. V'yimded lo mocher bekabayim tachas tirkav. Then a seller might use a measure of 2 kav instead of a tirkav. That could be confusing. And then the Gemara said that the confusion actually is bechatzi tirkav with a half a tirkav. Dahainu kav of a chetzi. That's 1.5 kav. Ve'eno pachos mi kabayim shlish. That's not less than 2 kav by a third. El revia. That's a quarter less. Again, v'yasi limiti, and that can cause people to make mistakes. And then the Gemara said, "Hachi chatzi tuman v'uchla lo ne'avid." If that's true, you shouldn't have a half a tuman and an uchla. Shachatzi tuman eino gadol afilu revia kim chomesh. That's only bigger, not even by a quarter. It's only bigger by a fifth. Kedeforishas le'el, like we explained earlier. V'kol shekain dasi limiti. For sure, there's going to be mistakes made in that case. And the Gemara answered to that, Beki buhu inshi, when they're very small, people are experts. Shemitoch katnusa, since it's so small, Yodin bulashar, people know how to measure. Kama machzik velasi l'ramos, people aren't going to cheat in such a situation. And the Gemara then asked, Revia sahin, a quarter of a hin, pechusa mishlisha sahin revia, that's only less than a third of a hin by a quarter. V'yasi l'mitei, there also it's going to come to cause mistakes. And the Gemara answered to that, Kevan dehava b'mikdash kedamran le'el. We said earlier that this was in the Beis HaMikdash. Shenosas hayu b'hin, we said that there were markings on the hin, ad kan lapar, ad kan la'ayl, until here it's for use for a bull, here for a ram, ad kan lakeves, here for a sheep. Dahainu chatzi u'shlishas u'revi'as hin. Those measures are a half, a third, and a quarter of a hin. So therefore, again, since it's in the Beis HaMikdash, there is no gezerah. And the Gemara continues at the 2 dots. Samar Shmuel says, Ein mosifin al hamidos yoser mishasus. One cannot add on to the measures more than 1/6. V'lo al hamatbeya yeser mishasus. You can't add on to the coins more than a 1/6. V'amistakar, and one who tries to profit, al yistakar yoser mishasus. He can't profit more than a 1/6. And the Rashbam explains, Ein mosifin al hamidos, imbo anshe oir lahosif al kol hamidos, ben gedolos, ben ketanos, lefi cheshbon echad. If the people of the city want to add on to the measures, whether they're big or small, according to one calculation, mikor ad revius, from a kor until a revius, u'leshaber midos rishonos delo lesi limite, they want to break the original measure, so no one's going to make a mistake. Ein magdilan kiyem shasus, yoser, they're only allowed to raise it by 1/6. Shamisha hichzik hey beitzim, for example, if it was originally 5 beitzim, 5 eggs, yachzik atavov, so now it'll be 6. And then we said that if one wants to profit, kagon chenvoni, hakone yayin upeiros min hasiton harbe biyachad. Let's say you have a storekeeper, he's buying wine and produce from the wholesaler a lot at once, kedei limchor ma'at ma'at, and he's going to sell little by little. Al yistaker yoser mishasus, he should not make a profit of more than a sixth. And the Gemara continues, ein mosifin al amidos yoser mishasus. Again, Shmuel said you're not allowed to add on to the measures more than a sixth. And the Gemara says, my time, what's the reason? If you're going to say it's because the prices are going to go up then, so shasus namilo, so you shouldn't raise it by a sixth either. If the prices go up by a sixth, that's also problematic. And so the Gemara continues, rather what you'll say is because by onah, if it's more than a sixth, that's already a bittul mekach. There we say that the entire sale has to go back. So maybe you'll say that we're worried about, but 1/6, if you have onah of just 1/6, we don't say that it's bittul mekach. We don't say that the whole sale is nullified, but that wouldn't work either. But Rava said, Kol davar shebemida v'shebemishkal v'shebeminyan, anytime you have something that's measured, or you're weighing it, or you're doing it by count, meaning it's not something to do with the wrong price, but rather it's something that was measured incorrectly, meaning referring to the product. Afilu pachos michdei onah choser. So there, if the person gave the wrong amount of the product, even if it's less than the amount of onah, the whole sale is going to be retracted. And so you can't say that the reason why more than a sixth is a problem is because of bittul mekach. It's a bittul mekach anyway, even if it's not more than a sixth, if the mistake was in terms of measure. And so the Gemara continues, Ella, rather, the reason why the person is not supposed to the city is not supposed to raise the measures by more than a sixth is the lo lahavip seida litagra. We don't want it to be a loss for the merchant in this fashion. Let's say a merchant's going to come from outside the city and he's going to do business. In this fashion, he's not going to lose more than a sixth. But the Gemara says, Pseidahu de lo lahavile rav chalo boy, but you think the only thing we're concerned about is that he shouldn't lose out, but we don't care about his profit. Zavan v'zovin tagra ikri, if somebody buys and sells and makes no profit, is that called a merchant? That wouldn't be a good reason if we were worried about the merchants, so we shouldn't only be worried by more than a sixth. And so the Gemara says, Alamar of Chisda, rather of Chisda says, Shmuel kro eshkach v'darish, Shmuel found a pasuk and he darshaned it. The pasuk says, and this is a pasuk in Yechezkel, v'ashekel esrim geira, it says the shekel is 20 geira, and then it says esrim shkolim chamisha ve'esrim shkolim, it says 20 shkolim and 25 shkolim, and asar v'chamisha shekel and 15 shekel. You put that together, hamona yilochem, that equals a mona, that's 60 shekel in a mona. And the Rashbam explains, the Gemara suggested maybe the reason why you can't raise the measures by more than a sixth is mishum afkuish tara, it's going to cause that the prices are going to go up. What that means is shemevim tavua lakan kishayiru shosifu hamidos yokiru. When they bring the produce over here, so then people see that the measures were raised, so then everything's going to go up in accordance with how much the measures were raised. However, mishanichnas hayokar, however, once prices go up, mokirin yoser michdei tosefes, sometimes they go up more than the amount that was added. So maybe that's the difficulty. If you're going to change the measures by so much, it's going to cause a price increase, and the price increase will not be proportional. It's actually going to be disproportionate. It's going to be too much that the prices go up. But then the Gemara said, if that's true, shasus nami lo liavid, you shouldn't do a sixth either. Mishum high time agufe, exactly a sixth would be the same problem. And so then the Gemara said, ela lohachein mosifin yoser mishasus, maybe the reason why we don't add to the measures more than a sixth, mishum da'oso mecher da'ave achshav ona ein shneim chosrin kashein mosifin ela shasus, when it's just a sixth. So like we said, if you have ona of a sixth, that is not bittul mekach, that doesn't nullify the entire sale. But if it's more than a sixth, have a bittul mekach, it's going to be a bittul mekach. And nosef yeser al shasus, if you're going to add on more than a sixth, that can cause a bittul mekach problem. The entire sale will be nullified. V'lo nochon lasos takana sheyivtelu al yada hamachiros. You shouldn't make a takana, which through that you're going to have sales that will be nullified. And so therefore maybe that's the reason. But the Gemara says that can't be the reason either. V'amar Rava Barava said, v'afilam yosifu al amidos pachos mishasus lahav a bittul mekach. If you're adding on to measures and that causes problems, so even if it's less than a sixth, there's bittul mekach when it has to do with measures, because we say kol davar shebemida shehuta bemida. Anytime a person is misled when it comes to measures, afilu pachos michdei ona, even less than ona, dahainu pachos mishasos, even less than a sixth, to have a mechila b'chayfetz hanimkar biomed hachachozer. If it's something that you sell by estimation, that would be mechila, we would forgive it. But over here we would say that you have to go back on the sale. Mishum de tos gomru, that's considered to be a full-fledged mistake. And so then the Gemara suggested maybe the reason is delo lahavip seidel letagra. We don't want it to be a loss for the merchant. Sheba meir acheres, he's coming from a different city. V'yamar de mistaker shasus, and so in general a merchant tries to profit by a sixth. Uveshaloho sifu kim shasus v'hulo yado machar. And so then the point is, if they added only a sixth and he doesn't know and he sold kemosha yerogel achshav in the same way that he used to, so lo ibed kim shasus, then he's only going to lose out on 1/6, the shahaya lo laharviach, which would have been his profit. So he's going to lose his profit. Maybe that's the reason. But lo Yirsin Mikaren Shalo. That way he won't lose out on the principal, klum at all. Aval Mosifu Yozer Mishasos. But if already they're going to add on more than a sixth and he doesn't realize, Islay Pseidim Mikaren Shalo, then he's already going to lose out. It's not just not going to be a profit, but he's going to lose. But then the Gemara asked on that, they're worried about the fact that he shouldn't lose. But they're not worried about his profit. They should be worried about his profit as well. And so finally the Gemara said, he found a pasuk, again the pasuk in Yechezkel, Da'amar Mosif and Shasus. The point is the pasuk is going to indicate that you add on a sixth. And that's why it's okay to add a sixth. The pasuk is not concerned that the merchant is not going to profit. But if it's already more than a sixth, that we don't want to add on because it will cause a loss to the merchant. If there you don't have a pasuk that allows it. And again, the pasuk says hashekel, which is a sela. The shekel, which is a sela, is esrim geira mos ketanos sheyesh me'an hey b'dinar. Those are small moos, small money that are 5 in a dinar. And the point is, again, that's esrim geira in this shekel. And then esrim shkolim chamisha v'esrim shkolim esr v'chamisha shekel. If you have 20 shekel, 25 shekel, plus 15 shekel. And so therefore we say that adds up to a moneh, shalosh cheshbonos halalu biyachar hamoneh yelachem. You put these three together, that's a moneh. Like we said, that's 60. V'yesh lomar diyesh mekomo shamoneh chamisha asar slam. Now why do we list it? Why don't we just say 60? Why are we saying that it's 20, 25, and 15 and we add it together? It could be the idea is that there were places where a moneh was 15. V'yesh esrim slam, there are places where it was 20. V'yesh chamisha v'esrim, and there are places where it was 25. L'kach nemar shloshes haminim halalu. That's why the pasuk is listing all three. Hamoneh shel kodesh yelachem, and saying that the moneh of kodesh, you add that together, and that's the moneh of kodesh. And we will continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf 90a Daf.